I resent encroachments on the First Amendment because I'm a constitutional fundamentalist.
And these encroachments are taking place how?
Well, they take place every day, but especially since the Reagan administration has taken power, I believe he must owe an awful lot to the group of video evangelists that he does business with.
Because they're talking about rock music and lyrics and what's on records and what kids are listening to.
It's not just that, because the influence of fundamentalist theory, let's call it, in American politics is, I think, beyond the limit of what the government should tolerate in terms of church meddling. After all, these people pay no taxes. They're getting a free ride. The IRS can't look at their books. And you've got a president that owes them a lot because they use their television stations to help get him in.
But they have a right of free speech, which you would defend.
I defend.
And they have a right to say, I think Frank Zappa's lyrics are bad.
Of course. Okay. But they do not have a right to pass legislation or influence legislation which influences my life or the lives of people who don't agree with their point of view just because they've got an in Washington, D.C. And they keep putting up the smoke screen about government meddling in religion, but really it's religion meddling in government because of the economic influence there.
Now, what is their goal, do you think? They want to ban albums?
No, their goal is to take over the United States the same way the Ayatollah took over Iran.
You believe that?
I believe it. They want to rate rock albums, not country and western albums, because country and western music is like God's music, so you don't touch that. But
it wouldn't affect country and western. Well, how do you know that?
Because I debated a woman named Candy Stroud on the CBS Night Watch Sunday night debate, which will air next Sunday, and I asked her that question on the air. She said no.
It would not be on country and western, only rock.
That's right. Okay, think about it this way. We live in Los Angeles. There are many cable stations they can watch, and the variety of types of things that you can see, including sometimes 7 channels of religion in Los Angeles. So it's a very good variety of stuff, and they watch it all. Of course, they have their favorites. I have 4 children, and they all have different things they like to watch. You know what I tell them not to watch? Don't watch a television show with a phone number at the bottom of the screen. Or if you see a man in a brown suit smiling too much, that's always dangerous.
You don't like religious people very much.
No, I do like religious people, but I say, if you think about what the Bible says, when Jesus got very angry when he found people doing business in the temple, and that's what you've got. Just because a man can afford his own television station and thinks that because if he calls his business a religion, he will not be taxed, the IRS can't look at his books, and he can exert all this political influence and then use the money to buy more television equipment, he becomes his own little government. I don't like that.
We go to Lansing, Michigan. Hello.
Hello. I would like to ask Mr. Zappa. I've been listening to his music for about 20 years, and I feel, in all of his music, he's always been anti-drug, anti-alcohol, anti-stupidity. And I wonder, does he feel that he's misunderstood by the American public in general? And does he feel if his music wasn't quite so eccentric that he might be better accepted?
Well, the problem about acceptance is this. In order for somebody to accept it, they have to hear it. And I heard something when I did that CBS show Sunday night that amazed me.
Which was?
A disc jockey named Surf from Washington was one of the people in the audience who got up and made a statement. And he mentioned, just in passing, and nobody's eyebrows went up and down, that during the 60s, while he was a disc jockey, Spiro Agnew had a blacklist of groups that were not to be allowed to be played on the radio. And he said, as a disc jockey, he didn't know for sure whether he was allowed to play Frank Zappa. And I thought, this is very strange. And today, when I was in New York doing...
I never heard of that.
Okay, well, listen, I did another radio show in New York today, WNEW, with Dave Herman. And I mentioned the same thing. His head started going like this. I said, you know about this blacklist? He said, yeah, sure I do. I said, would you testify to it? He said, yes, I would. He said, as a matter of fact, I played some of those records, and the IRS hounded me for 6 years afterwards.
West Haven, Connecticut, for Frank Zappa. Hello.
Hello, Frank.
Hi.
I've enjoyed your music for many years, and I'd like to ask you about this rating system. Don't you think that maybe if they had the rating system, your albums would probably sell better because they'd probably be rated X?
Well, I don't think my albums would be rated X because a lot of the things that they put on the album are purely instrumental. And so what are you going to rate for that? Is somebody going to decide? Well, let me tell you something about that. Did you know that for years the trombone glissando was thought of as lewd? lewd and vulgar, and you could not include it in a classical composition until Schoenberg did in the early part of this century, and got horrible reviews because he had a trombone going like that. That is censorship.
New York City with Frank Zappa. Hello.
Hi, I'd just like to ask Frank, I think it would be wonderful. Has he thought about running for public office?
Well, yes,
So
I have.
far, three for three, they love you.
Yeah, okay, well, I thought about it, but you know, if you run for a public office, you want to be able to achieve something, and I think that the climate in Washington right now, if you came here to try and do something, it's so corrupt. I mean, people are lying so much. You know, a single person can't really do anything because the name of the game is politics. It's like show business. There's no statesmanship involved in it. People will say and do anything to get votes, and they spend the time in office planning for the next time somebody votes for them.